and to enter into a lease agreement for property owned by the county. The property in question is a portion of the property located at 1357 Remount Road, Unit G, and County Council is considering a lease agreement with the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Nobody signed up? Okay, thank you. Next one, amendments to the zoning.
Charleston County Council will hold a public hearing on amendments to the zoning and land development regulations.
All right, good evening. We'll start by going over the proposed amendments for the Natural Resource Management Zoning District. The adoption of the ZLDR in November 2001 created the Natural Resource Management Special Purpose Zoning District, which included special zoning regulations for both Deweese Island and Goat Island. The overhaul of the ZLDR adopted in October of 2021 moved the Natural Resource Management Special Purpose Zoning District in Chapter 5 to be a base zoning district in Chapters 4 and 6. And the amendments that are proposed tonight will clarify the uses and development standards for properties in the Natural Resource Zoning District, especially for those located on Deweese Island. Deweese is treated differently than Goat Island and the other islands in the Natural Resource Management Special Purpose Zoning District for a few reasons. First, there's a DNR conservation easement that was put in place back in 1975. The island was developed as a planned community with larger lot sizes than Goat Island and the other NR islands. And the development is guided by the Deweese Island Land Plan and the Deweese Island Architectural and Environmental Design Guidelines. To give a little bit of history of development on Deweese, development began back in the 1970s. The DNR conservation easement went into place in 1975. Short-term renting on the island began in the 1990s. In July of 2018, the county adopted its first short-term rental regulations ordinance that had the effect of prohibiting short-term rentals on Deweese Island. In April of 2019, DNR directed the Deweese Island Property Owners Association and other concerned stakeholders to meet to formulate a reasonable framework for restricting short-term rentals pursuant to the conservation easement. In October of 2020, the county amended its short-term rental regulations ordinance to allow the Hyler House on Deweese Island to be short-term rented to Property Owners Association guests and property owners and their guests. This was started by an application that was submitted by the Property Owners Association. In March of 2021, DNR adopted a resolution to ban short-term renting on Deweese Island except for owner-to-owner renters. And in July of 2022, DNR clarified that 2021 resolution, and that clarification states that rentals of a dwelling unit for any duration do not, standing alone, violate the conservation easement's prohibition of commercial activity, provided, however, that short-term rentals are conducted through a POA-approved advertising platform. All right. So now to get to the reason for the amendments. They're intended to better define the uses and development standards on Deweese Island. At the June 18th, 2024 council meeting, council directed staff to amend the ZLDR to do just that. And the proposed amendments that are before you tonight are a combination of drafts of amendments that we've received from both property owners and the POA over the last few years. So I'll go through a summary of those proposed amendments, starting with Chapter 4, Base Zoning Districts. Sections 4.3.2 and 4.3.3 state that the uses and development standards for properties on Deweese Island and Goat Island have been moved to Article 5.16, which is the proposed Natural Resource Management Special Purpose Zoning District section, and that those for all other properties that are zoned NR are contained in the use table and in Article 4.3. The regulations for Deweese Island and Goat Island that are currently located in Section 4.3.4 have been moved to that new Article 5.16, and the regulations for Deweese Island have been amended at that location. There are no amendments proposed for the Goat Island regulation. They've simply been moved to Article 5.16. In Chapter 5, the proposed amendments add Article 5.16, the Natural Resource Management Special Purpose Zoning District, which is where the use and development standards for Deweese Island are proposed to be contained. That section includes all the uses that are proposed to be allowed on Deweese Island, which I'll go over in a minute. It also states that accessory uses and structures are allowed pursuant to the ZLDR. It states that the density, intensity, and dimensional standards have to comply with the Deweese Island Architectural and Environmental Design Guidelines that are in effect whenever a development application is submitted. It does require written documentation from the Dewey's Island Architectural Review Board and/or their POA approval to be submitted as part of each permit approval and development application, and that specifically the POA approval is required for short-term rental permit applications. So the next three slides list the uses that are proposed to be allowed on Dewey's. I want to highlight the short-term rental regulations that are being proposed. Those must comply with the requirements of the county short-term regulations as they apply to limited home rentals, with the exception of the occupancy status requirements, the parking requirements, and the maximum number of rental days. The maximum number of rental days is proposed to be 56 per calendar year, not including owner-to-owner rentals. These are the additional uses that are proposed to be allowed. The clubhouse, community buildings like the Hyler House, nature exhibition, utility services, limited retail sales, offices for the POA and the utility corporation, safety services, communication tower, community dock. The amendments that are proposed for the use table do not affect Dewey's Island or Goat Island. They only affect the other natural resource management properties. And they really only state that single-family residential uses are by right uses instead of uses subject to conditions. And then finally, Article 6.8, the short-term rental regulations are proposed to be amended to clarify that the short-term rental regulations for properties on Dewey's are contained in Article 5.16. And this chart is where that is included as footnote number 4. There may be additional amendments that are proposed throughout the adoption process as we continue to work with legal and the Department of Natural Resources. I just want to make that note. We have had a lot of public input on this. It began with July 16th community meeting that we hosted in this room with the owners of properties on Dewey's Island. We had 48 people in attendance, 21 were here in person, 27 were virtual. We had 15 people speak at the meeting, 6 were in favor, 7 in opposition, and a couple had some questions and general comments. We also received public input in advance of the August 12th Planning Commission meeting. We got about 40 comments in support, 41 in opposition, and then there were about 20 that had either changes to the proposed amendments and/or submitted questions and other general comments. The Planning Commission at their August 12th meeting unanimously recommended approval of the amendments before you tonight. At that meeting, 2 people spoke in support of the amendments, 8 people spoke in opposition. We did have a representative of the POA present who gave general comments, and 3 letters were in opposition were submitted at the meeting. And then the deadline for public input for tonight's meeting was last Friday. We received 37 comments in opposition, 9 in support. And then we did receive last night 1 additional letter in support, and I understand that a few letters in opposition have been submitted here tonight as well. So that is the end of the Dewey's Island Natural Resource Management amendments. We do have 3 other amendments that I will quickly go over. Back in May, the 5-year review of the comprehensive plan was approved. As part of that approval, the 3 future land use categories that you see highlighted here, the Wadmalaw Island agricultural preservation, and rural agriculture future land use categories, the density ranges for those categories were taken away. So there's no longer a high end of the range. It's simply one density recommended. So the ZLDR is inconsistent in 2 areas with that and needs to be amended, and that's what's being proposed tonight. The first location is Article 4.25, the Plan Development Zoning District, which requires that a certain amount of open space be provided in order to get to the top end of the density range. That top end no longer exists, so we need to delete that section of the ZLDR, and that's what's being proposed here. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this, and all of the public input that we've received to date has been in support. The other section that needs to be amended is Article 8.14, Conservation Subdivisions. This has to do with the rural agriculture future land use designation and the deletion of the 1 unit per 4 acres in the range. In the ZLDR, the AG8 zoning district implements this future land use designation. In the AG8 zoning district, you are currently allowed to get up to 1 unit per 4 acres through the conservation subdivision process. That is no longer consistent with the comprehensive plan, and therefore it's being proposed to be deleted. Again, Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and all of the comments we've received have been in support. And then the last amendment has to do with parking requirements for passive recreation parks. The ZLDR currently has parking standards for parks and recreation uses, and they do not differentiate between an active recreation use like a ball field or a swimming pool or a tennis court, which would need more parking, and a passive recreation use, which is something like a park with a trail, or that's a category that many of our greenbelt properties fall into. So those requirements can add up pretty quickly if you have a large passive recreation area. It's been brought to our attention. We've worked with the greenbelt staff to come up with alternative requirements, which are shown here. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of those as well, and all of the public input that we've received on those have been in support. And both the Planning Commission meeting back in August and tonight's public hearing were noticed as required.
Thank you, ma'am.
We have 7 people signed up to speak on this. The first person is Esther Doyle, followed by Jack Westerfield.
I'd like to remind council that this is a public hearing. We're here to hear what the public has to say, and we're not supposed to speak back during this portion of the meeting. We have Planning and Public Works Committee meeting Thursday week on September 19th, and that's the proper time for council to ask questions. And of course, it'll all be on the record at the time too. So thank you all very much. Please begin, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. My name is Esther Doyle, 293 Old House Lane, DeWeese. While I understand you may not usually concern yourselves with the politics of DeWeese Island, it's important that you have some insight before making a decision on the proposed text amendment. First, the POA board sent a letter supporting this amendment, but it was not unanimous. 2 of the 7 board members who signed it also have a pending lawsuit against the county to allow STRs on the island. This is a clear and egregious conflict of interest, especially considering these 2 have rented their secondary houses and apparently want to continue to do so. Second, our POA board is required by our covenants to hold a referendum before any zoning changes, yet they have ignored this requirement and the advice from their legal counsel to follow through. Third, the board has had 6 years to address a consensus on STRs and has failed to develop any rules or limits. They have never managed illegal rentals, and it's highly unlikely they will do so in the future. If this amendment passes, DeWeese could see a surge in rentals, potentially doubling the number of homes by allowing separate dwellings per lot without any supervision of a homeowner, and it lays the groundwork for changing our architectural environmental design guidelines without a separate referendum, which would undermine our island's restrictions and drastically increase density on this very small barrier island from 150 homes to a potential 300. Finally, the planning staff and the commission have ignored our concerns about infrastructure, public safety, and the environmental risk. It's obligation to take a closer look at what provoked this amendment and what the long-term impact will be. Approving this amendment does not protect the public good or your constituents. Just a footnote, much has been said about the minority objecting to this amendment are full-timers. This is not the case. Full-timers and part-timers have the most at stake here, and we are the ones who suffer the brunt of the negatives of this activity. Those who were told they could rent their houses has an issue with their realtors, not the full or part-timers. Thank you very much.
Jack Westerfield, Mark Beschel.
Good evening, council. My name is Jack Westerfield. My wife Park and I live full-time on Pelican Flight Drive on Dewey's Island. I'm here today to state my opposition to the short-term rental section of the proposed text amendment, which would allow every house in the island to rent for 56 days, regardless of residency status. This is different from every other part of unincorporated Charleston County. These 56 days are an arbitrary number and would be impossible to regulate and would be a tremendous burden on our infrastructure. Our architectural design guidelines state, quote, the philosophy of development at Dewey's Island is for the presence of man to have a positive impact on the environment and ecosystem now and in the future. Short-term rentals have the potential to cause significant irreversible damage. Our island cannot withstand the influx of large numbers of renters who would come for short visits and not understand the unique nature of living in harmony with nature on the island. I join with so many of my neighbors who are asking you not to change this island from the most protected area of Charleston County to the least protected through this misguided rental proposal, which would only benefit a few owners and impact the rest of the community and our island gem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mark Bushell, Jill John.
Hi, I'm Mark Beischel. My wife Tony and I live on Deweese Island full-time. We continue to oppose short-term rentals as detailed in this latest text amendments for reasons that we've submitted in writing. But one continuing concern that we have is the County Planning Commission and the County Council do not appear to be listening to your own data. The data that you collected by the county, and you've done a great job of collecting this data, show roughly 40 to 40 opposed and for, which is 50-50. And also verbally, it's been a lot more opposition than has. So I don't feel like we're being listened to. We haven't. The Planning Commission voted unanimously with little discussion after all this opposition was expressed in both in writing and verbally. So I would just ask you to reconsider and to really listen to the data that you have, which is clearly 50-50 at best, against and for, and reconsider your position that the Planning Commission sent to you, or at least give us a logical explanation. We have had no feedback at all from anybody. The second thing is, I'm a volunteer fireman. I drive the safety boat sometimes when we have emergencies back to Isle of Palms, and it takes Isle of Palms 35 minutes to get out to the island, and I'm really worried about public safety. If we have an influx of a lot of people, especially a lot of people that don't know the island, we're going to have a very difficult time handling them from a public safety standpoint. I'm talking about fires, drinking, accidents, all kinds of emergencies. I'm really worried that we're not going to be able to handle that. And I'm a volunteer driving the safety boat. I'm a retired accountant. Do you really want a retired accountant driving people for their safety to the firehouse? We're very thinly staffed, is my point, and an influx of people will really stretch our public safety. Thank you.
Jill John, Laura Corman.
Hi, my name's Jill John, and I live full-time on Deweese Island. Deweese Island, I hope you have Googled Deweese. It's a 1,200-acre barrier island where only 5% of the island is allowed to be disturbed. It's planned for a maximum of 150 homes, which would be on 60 acres. You're proposing a text amendment allowing all homes at currently 72 homes to rent for 56 days a year. This would also include 4 of our community suites. A number of residents have voiced their environmental impact concerns regarding the summer of 2018, when we had 18 homes and 4 suites being rented. Now you're proposing 72 homes. This exception is so unrestrictive and different from anywhere else in unincorporated Charleston County that a special purpose zoning district is being created. We do not have the staff to enforce. Our water lines, our sewer lines are aged. They're not built to handle this substantial increase of population. The sewer lines were to fail, environmental damage could be severe. We talk about another infrastructure, our parking lot on Isle of Palms. We do not have the space to expand. 4th of July, our parking lot is full, and that's just with current homeowners and guests. I can't imagine with homes having 10 people or more. We watched the June 18th council meeting, and you all were faced with a decision regarding a project which was placed on hold until the infrastructure could be considered. please consider Dewey's Island infrastructure. Thank you.
Laura Corman, Chris John.
Good evening. My name is Laura Corman. I have owned my home at 251 Old House Lane on Dewey's Island since 2020. I am opposed to the short-term rental provisions in the proposed text amendment for all of the environmental, infrastructure, public safety, and legal reasons you have read and heard about today. My plea is to give significant thought to the irreversible impact this extreme proposal will inflict on the environment of our fragile, protected island, and to listen to the significant number of owners who, like me, oppose short-term rentals. You have received overwhelming feedback in opposition to STRs than for those who have then many more owners who have attended the meetings have spoken against STRs. In fact, since the last meeting, you've received 37 letters in opposition and 9 approving STRs. Our voices, those of us who are against STRs, deserve to be heard as we are speaking for the good of the entire island and not just for our own personal financial benefit. At a previous meeting, one owner stated that this is really an argument between year-round residents and part-timers, which is inaccurate. First, I am one of many part-time owners who oppose STRs, and second, an informal count shows approximately the same percentage of part-time owners against STRs as the number of full-time residents. I will make one last point. Our POA board has expressed to you a desire to change the Hyler House Suites to lodge status, thus not keeping it to owners, their guests, and guests of the POA as dictated in our governing documents. This was done with no community input and should be dismissed as well. I would like to give you an article that ran in the Post and Courier last year that highlights what we are attempting to preserve. Again, please listen to all of your constituents. There is no consensus to change Dewey's from the most protected area of your responsibility to the least.
Chris John, Alicia Riley.
Give it to him.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Chris John. My wife Jill and I changed our life plan to move full-time to Dewey's. Before I get started on my thing, I wanted to sort of correct the record on one of the things. Historically, short-term rentals began on Dewey's as an attempt to sell this brand new concept. It wasn't intended to be for vacationers from the beginning. It was, hey, look at this environmental masterpiece. So, you know, it's kind of apples and oranges what we're talking about here. I'd like to summarize the arguments. The arguments in favor boil down to a demand to create the least restrictive regulations in Charleston County and really trust us to do what we've been unable to do for the past 6 years or else. The arguments against them are many. Infrastructure, you've heard about our water and sewer system, our roads, parking lot, they're all aging. They're not built to handle the massive increases that you all are contemplating. There are several legal issues around the origins of the proposal. You'll hear more about that in a minute. But the timing, the process applied, the uniformity, and the arbitrary nature. We do have some pending Freedom of Information requests seeking to better understand these origins. In addition, there is a pending lawsuit against the county demanding the county allow short-term rentals on the island. Opposing counsel in this lawsuit told the Planning Commission about a deposition in which a Planning Department staff member allegedly admitted to a mistake in not including Dewey's in the 2018 ordinance. The attorney's statement implies this proposal is an attempt to resolve the suit. Zoning cannot be changed by a lawsuit that benefits only the few and harms the rest of us. Community sentiment, you've just heard about. The majority of the written feedback, overwhelmingly now after last week, received by you all, and the vast number of people who've taken the time to come and attend these meetings have spoken in opposition. We have no consensus. And environmental, very, very important. So my plea is revisit the Planning Commission's approval of the amendment. Listen to your constituents, have a transparent process, follow your conscience by rejecting this short-sighted attempt to resolve a lawsuit at the expense of one of your most fragile and unique areas of responsibility. Thank you.
Alicia Riley.
Hello, my name is Alicia Riley, and I have lived at 247 Old House Lane on Dewey's with my 2 kids for 7 years. And I'm here to express why the proposed text amendment for Dewey's Island simply doesn't make sense. And in fact, it undermines some of our most important zoning principles. First, the amendments claim to apply the requirements for limited home rentals, but they simultaneously strip away the critical guardrails. I cannot say that word, sorry, status requirements, parking rules, essential elements designed to protect the community are being deleted. This essentially opens Dewey's, which is ecologically pristine, to the most unregulated STR use in the entire county. This contradicts the concept of RM zoning as the most restrictive category. Second, the amendments do not apply uniformly. These changes are targeted specifically at Dewey's, while properties on Goat Island remain unaffected. State law under Section 6-29-720B requires uniformity in zoning, and the principle of equal protection mandates that those similarly situated must be treated alike. Yet, here, Dewey's is left with the headache of unfettered STRs, while Goat Island faces no such burden. This is clearly not in line with state law. And finally, these amendments are arbitrary. They do not serve the public good, but rather the singular financial interest of a few out-of-state residents looking to maximize their return on investment. We can't allow a few individuals to dictate policy that infects our entire community, especially the one that is home to an untouched ecosystem. I urge you, please reconsider these amendments. Preserve the integrity of both Dewey's and our county zoning laws. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for public hearings. We have 15 people signed up for public comment.
Thank
The
you.
first person is Thomas Tisdale Jr., followed by Adam Friend.
Good evening, council. My family would like to thank you all for going through the process of rezoning our property, and we ask that you all will consider supporting us in going back to the original rezoning. Thank you.
Adam Friend, Stuart Weinberg.
Good evening, council. Adam Friend, Woodland Shores Road in James Island, South Carolina. I recently attended a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce where I thought I was going under the guise of safety. As you know, I've been very influential in my neighborhoods for safe roads and feel like that's an important topic for our area. However, when I proceeded to listen to the presentation, I quickly learned that it really had nothing to do with safe roads and that it was really about people in the audience who were influential, wealthy land owners, builders of roads, engineers who are affected when large projects are done locally. And this presentation was done by an individual who I believe has probably run some of your campaigns to get elected up there. Found that to be interesting that he also now is being paid by the chamber to run a campaign to try to get the referendum passed. There was language that was used in there from a polling that talked about an angle that would be used to go after the votes for the people, using words that were important to them like safety, green space, and mass transit. I was very surprised to learn that that was something. I may just be naive, but I think transparency as people and as from your end is very important, because as I recall, all of you were elected by the people, and I think you're there to serve the people. And to attend something where some of you up here were actually in attendance at this same meeting, I was there. Some of you spoke. I was very taken aback, and I feel like that it's just something's not right about what's being done right now. This referendum and the way that it's being presented is not fair to the people. You're giving us no choice. I have to vote no, and I hope people will do the same. I'm disappointed. I hope you guys, I know you're not all involved, but some of you are, and I think you guys need to look at what you're doing.
Stuart Weinberg, Katie Zimmerman.
Good evening. Losing my voice. If you remember, I'm the chair of your Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. And I was here last week for the Finance Committee meeting and watched almost unanimous vote for the climate action plan. So I know you're going to do that tonight because you already have done that. Just as a reminder for everyone, and I'm not going to go through all the comments that I made way back in March, but the climate action plan will accelerate the transition to a clean energy economy while simultaneously achieving multiple health, equity, economic, and resilience benefits. So I look forward to you approving this later this evening. Also reminding you that we are right now, I understand, in the process of selecting a new director of resilience. I implore you to continue to look for a new director of sustainability so that the Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee can function as a good committee for the benefit of all the residents. And just based on a question that was raised last week, I know that next month you'll be receiving the vulnerability study, which might answer some of the questions that were raised at the Finance Committee meeting last week. So thank you in advance for doing what you're going to do tonight. Appreciate it.
Katie Zimmerman, Barbara Burnett.
Hi, my name is Katie Zimmerman. I'm Executive Director of Charleston Moves. I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the Main Road Segment A contract that's on the agenda in your full meeting tonight. Charleston Moves was engaged early on with this project. We were included in meetings, design meetings, discussions, and had the opportunity, thanks to the staff, to weigh in and sort of help move the bike ped components forward. We also did at least one support letter for grant applications to help supplement the funding for that project. I don't think the grant was awarded, but we've been really excited about the bike ped aspect of the design, which includes a crucial component, which is the separate bike ped bridge adjacent to the Limehouse Bridge. So we were really, I was kind of shaken when I learned on Friday that that's no longer in the design. It's a tremendous opportunity. To get this bridge in place offers a way to chip away at traffic congestion because you're providing a way for people to get out of their cars to get where they need to go. You're offering a way for Johns Islanders to access the Stono River County Park. It would connect to the West Ashley Greenway, the Bees Ferry multi-use path, Glen McConnell path, ultimately the Ashley River crossing. It's huge. So I'm here to truly just beg you, can we figure out a way to get the bridge back in the design, solve the maintenance discussion? Is there something in the contract that can help continue this discussion so we can work this out, solve the problem, and move on with a wonderful, wonderful design? Get it back in there. So thank you. Appreciate the time.
Barbara Burnett, Belvin Olisov.
Hello, Council. My name is Barbara Burnett. I live at Carolina Terrace. My property I bought in 2010. And my property runs adjacent to Coburg Creek. Can you hear me okay? Okay. It's a beautiful place. I'm at the end of the road. I call it Little Edisto because it reminds me of property we had down on Edisto by a creek, oak trees, quiet. And now, shortly after I bought the property, to grow old in and to pass down to my children so they could have college money for their children, my property, very soon after I bought it, started flooding. Now, I know this isn't on the agenda, but I have spoken to so many people with management water regarding this problem. And I've talked with Stormwater. I've talked with, for 12 years, off and on, since I've retired, to Matt Fountain, Anthony Garlow, Chris Wanamaker, who's been wonderful. He's a very kind and thoughtful person. He's done his best, but he can't do anything. So here I am with County Council. My end of the street is in the council. In the county. The other part of the street is in the city. So it's a strange situation. I've talked to Sean Dove. I've written letters to Blair Williams. I have left messages. I get nothing. So I'm calling in the wind. So that's why I'm here right now. I ask you to, why the problem that my property floods is because Coburg Creek has not been maintained. Coburg Creek that runs along my house, that goes under Savannah Highway, that goes to the end up over by the Baptist Church, by the Greenway, has not been cleaned out. You can go there and see how it's silted up. So when even with the rain, don't talk about $100-year storm, it floods my land and it washes my land out to the creek. My house is going to Coburg Creek. Please find out what can be done.
Thank you.
Belvin Olisov, Karen Biko.
Good evening, Council. I'm Belvin Olisov with the Charleston Climate Coalition, and I want to thank you for commissioning the County Climate Action Plan and paying off the promise of the resolution that y'all passed in 2021, encouraging the development and implementation of an equity-centered, community-based, integrated climate action plan. I think you've done a great job of putting that plan together. I'm here tonight because I want to impress upon you that there is a lot of community support and a lot of organizational support for continuing the success of this plan. There are resolutions of support passed by the Town of Mount Pleasant and the City of Isle of Palms, letters of support from James Island Mayor Brooke Lyon and Seabrook Island Mayor Bruce Kleinman, 435 community signatures on the petition in support of the Climate Action Plan, 14 community organization sign-ons, including the Coastal Conservation League, Charleston Moves, Root Down Building Collective, Be the Ones, and 33 business sign-ons. The community really is encouraged and excited about the possibility of the county taking serious action on addressing the issue of climate change. And it was raised as a question last week why we're working on a global problem when we are a locality. Well, my answer to that is that the folks working on the big picture of the climate crisis have identified the solutions to the issue, and it turns out that a lot of them are things that the county and the municipalities have a lot of control over. Our buildings, our transportation infrastructure, localized green energy, waste systems. We have the agency here on the county level to make a lot of progress, and we're just one piece of the quilt, we're just one patch, but it all adds up. And doing our part, especially as an extremely climate vulnerable place, is very, very important. And economically, this will be great for us anyway. There's a lot of federal money out there. So thank you so much for considering the plan. I just wanted to let you know a lot of organizations are ready to help implement this once it's passed. Thank you.
Karen Biko, Jordan Amaker.
Good evening. Karen Biko, 2862 Middle Street, Sullivan's Island. As an avid book lover since early childhood, a reading tutor, an aunt to 3 teenagers, and a lover of our Charleston County Public Libraries, I'm here tonight to respond to the petition presented by the Charleston County Republican Party intended to censor the books in our public libraries. In my reading of that petition, the Republican Party is asking County Council to cut funding to our public libraries unless they agree to move each and every book that contains stories, words, language, or drawings that they deem to be sexually explicit to a specifically designated and age-restricted area within the adult section of the library where minors under 18 may not see nor access them. The chairman of the Charleston County GOP claims that this is not book banning, but what else would you call prohibiting the free and public viewing and access of library materials to members of the public, except book banning? By removing certain books to an age-restricted area, you are labeling these books and the ideas in them as offensive, dangerous, subversive, and/or immoral, as well as the people who check them out. This is un-American, hurts all of us, and goes against the very idea of the mission of a public library and the free exchange of ideas. Our degreed library professionals have created an award-winning library that we can all be proud of, with a diverse collection of programs and books that is as rich and diverse as the public that it serves. As do most reasonable people, I believe that it is the right, as well as the responsibility of parents to guide their own children's and only their children's library use and reading choices, and that parents should afford that same right to other parents. No one, especially a political party, should have the right to restrict access to reading choices in our public libraries or interfere in the private relationship between a parent and a child based upon their personal definition of what is right or moral. Please let our library professionals do their job. Let the existing process to book reconsideration work. And parents, if you want your child to read a specific book, please help them pick another one. Thank you.
Jordan Amaker, Brooke Blosser.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jordan Amaker. I'm here on behalf of Low Country Local First this evening, which is a nonprofit advocacy organization that's a membership base of more than 500 locally owned independent businesses of all sizes and sectors, most densely headquartered within Charleston County. We believe business can be a force for good, especially when they're given the tools and the incentives to do so. We believe, like many others, that the Climate Action Plan, if supported and prioritized accordingly, can be a significant tool for our business community to contribute to a healthier, more resilient environment and economy for generations to come. Low Country Local First supports sustainable practices that promote a circular economy where the resources are reused and the waste is minimized. We believe in community-driven approaches like this plan that can have a more immediate and meaningful impact compared to relying solely on national or global efforts. The regional focus of this plan will encourage local ownership and adoption of these solutions that matter most here, right now. We're here to support the promotion and the adoption of this plan amongst our local business community and to encourage sustainable sourcing, green transportation and building initiatives, and more. So thank you again for your support of this plan, and we are here to help implement when ready. I also, since I have a minute left, want to speak personally in support of the amendment that Katie Zimmerman brought to the table tonight to include the bike and pedestrian access over the Limehouse Bridge. I think if you're going to invest what you're going to invest in that project, to do it right the first time. I don't think any municipality here who's helped fund bike and pedestrian access over our water has ever regretted that. I think it's a great attraction to the community, but also one more way to get fewer people in cars, which I think we all can support. So thank you for considering that amendment. Thank you.
Brooke Blosser, Michael German.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Blosser, and I'm the Land, Water, and Wildlife Project Manager with the Coastal Conservation League located at 131 Spring Street. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment on the Climate Action Plan. I'm here to encourage you to vote yes for its adoption. We thank the county for formulating one of the first climate action plans in the state and acknowledging a rapidly changing climate. The warming climate is indicative of further hardships to come, including more frequent storms, life-threatening heat waves, and unprecedented flooding, extreme events that will no doubt come at a cost to the county and its taxpayers. There needs to be a deliberate and collaborative effort to address the root causes of our climate emissions and mitigate the impacts. Replication of proven strategies at the present is the only way to avoid future disaster. Adopting the Climate Action Plan is the first step towards prevention. The 5 big ideas of the CAP seek to inform policy action that acknowledges the need for a more resilient Charleston County in the face of future hazards. The CAP provides critical support for a wide variety of scalable mitigation and resilience efforts. Nature-based solutions like ecological restoration projects will sequester atmospheric carbon dioxide, provide ecosystem-wide benefits, and address local-scale flooding while supporting sustainable economic growth. There is broad support for the plan by a variety of residents, business owners, and organizations. By adopting the CAP and prioritizing its policy suggestions, you are investing in a resilient and strong Charleston County. I encourage you to vote yes. The League would also like to thank Council for approving the removal of bonus densities from the agriculture future land use categories from comprehensive plan future land use residential densities. We are in full support of the removal. Thank you.
Michael German, Jim Hippel.
Michael German, 1707 Snowden Road, South Carolina. Excuse me. Tonight I'm here to provide Charleston County Council members with the most recent update on the Snowden Sewer Project. I guess this is a part of our effort in being totally transparent and informing you where we are in this process. On 29 August, our president, Ms. Viola Stokes, and members of her staff met with Alan Klum, the general manager, and members of of his staff to get an update on the sewer project. During that meeting, they were informed that the contracts has been let. They didn't have, bids were not received, and as soon as those bids were received, they were going to come back and tell us the latest update. The purpose of that meeting was to field some questions the community would have had in anticipation of trying to answer those prior to the meeting. And that meeting was held last night at our community center, and Alan Klum informed us that the project is well under the way. There's 3 contractors that bid on the project. They will know who that contractor is by the end of this week, and hopefully the project will start as currently planned on 2nd November. It was a long time coming. The building was packed. I hope the project gets started on time and this issue can once and for all go away. Our second biggest concern, what is going to be coming soon, is our sidewalk issue, and that'll be a discussion for another day. Thank you.
Jim Heppel, Julie Hussey.
Good evening, members of council. I'm Jim Hemphill. I work with the East Coast Greenway Alliance as the South Carolina and Georgia manager. Here tonight to talk also about the Main Road Segment A project that is up, the contract that's up tonight. We were really concerned to hear that the multi-use path over the Limehouse Bridge over the Stono River was removed from the project. And I came tonight to, I sent a letter to you all this afternoon with more detailed comments, but came tonight to reiterate that we support you and want to find a solution, a maintenance solution here to keep the multi-use path in the Main Road Segment A project. This is a vital connection. There are safety implications here. So obviously the Main Road project is all about moving vehicles more quickly on and off of Johns Island. Anytime vehicle speeds are increasing, the need for protection for people walking and biking also increases. So I think the multi-use path is a key part of this project and needs to be remain in the project. We're talking about less than $50,000 a year for maintenance, and so that's what we're fighting over SCDOT about is $50,000 a year for maintenance of a $350 million project. So it just seems like a mistake and like we're missing a real opportunity here to secure this bridge crossing, which will benefit generations. Like I said, we're here to offer support and help. There might be other options for securing these maintenance funds. I'm not sure if the city of Charleston has been reached out to, but I know they're covering maintenance for the Ashley River Crossing project and might be willing to chip in here. Like I said, here to offer support. I think you all have my contact information. But we'd love to find a solution and keep this key crossing in the project. Thank you.
Julie Hussey, Darlene Thompson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Hussey. I live at 329 North Shelmore Boulevard in Mount Pleasant. I am a candidate for South Carolina Senate District 43, which has got me paying a lot of attention to what's going on between our state house and our county councils. And I really want to speak out against the use of kind of the going against home rule and the use of budget provisos to punish our local decisions that are made. I stand here in support of our county libraries and the processes that they have in place, and I urge you not to take the bait of turning things into political issues and further letting the state government overreach in its areas of home rule. I think this is really important. I know Beaufort County is one of the counties that's in South Carolina Senate District 43. They went through an entire book banning experience that they brought to the community, and to have the state come in and provide this whole extra level of overreach seems too far. I really want to support the wonderful efforts that I'm hearing about the Climate Action Plan and all the work that you've done with that. Imagine if the state all of a sudden decides that it now has a ban against climate action plans. I think we need to push back with that, and I urge you to stand strong with the work that you're doing here. Thank you.
Darlene Thompson, Carol Temple.
would like to thank County Council for giving me this opportunity to speak. I am Darlene Jackson Thompson. I retired from the library over 2 years ago as the Chief Deputy Director with 31 and a half years of service. I am here to address a resolution made by the Charleston County Republican Party directing the library director, library board, and you, County Council, to relocate all sexually explicit books into a special access section within the adult section into which no person under the age of 18 may enter. This is a very dangerous request because books you might consider sexually explicit cover a broad range of materials, such as books that teach girls about their menstrual cycle, something as basic as that. The Republican Party or any community group does not have the right to take away parents' rights to decide what their children should read. Parents decide for their own children and not for other parents' children. If this group is allowed to circumvent the library's policies and procedures, then a precedent will be established for any group to demand changes without going through the process. I'm asking County Council to continue directing the Charleston County Republican Party and all other groups to follow the policies and procedures of the Charleston County Public Library. They can do this by filling out a form called Citizens Request for Reconsideration, found under policies on CCPL's website. There's also a petition within this resolution stating that within Charleston County there are hundreds of sexually explicit books on our libraries that violate the obscenity federal law. The Citizens Request for Reconsideration form should be used to address each of the alleged hundreds of sexually explicit books. Thank you.
Carol Temple.
Good evening, council members. I'm a resident of James Island, 758 Sprague Street. This evening I wanted to come to you to talk about about the work that is happening in the school district. We have received a proviso, a regulation from the State Department regarding instructional materials. So I can assure you that the district is looking at ways to look at the instructional materials that are in schools to decide if they are age appropriate or aligned with the curriculum. So we have policies in place to inform parents and to make sure that our students have the best quality materials. What I wanted to say was that I think you need to trust the professionals in your county public library. We do need to exercise freedom to read. It is one thing when you think about the materials that children are using in school. It's another thing to make decisions about the whole public system. So our own public libraries, I have my library card. I know the professionals that are in my library and are downtown. They will make the decisions. They have processes in place to deal with it. We don't need to be involved in book banning. Thank you.
And the last person is Noah Counts.
I'd like to first thank the the county council for allowing me to speak, even though it's way more than 15 people. I live on 2220 Flying Fish Circle on Folly Beach, so I know the firsthand effects of climate change very well myself. I've almost had surfboards carried out into the marsh by the flooding, and so I'm here to voice my support for the Charleston Climate Action Plan, even though I know that y'all already voiced that last week at the Finance Committee, and I applaud y'all for that. Thank you very much. But I really, really would voice that if y'all have any doubts remaining in your heads, trust the experts. There are good people who have put so much work and so much time, so many organizations who've dedicated their all to making this plan as good as it can possibly be. All the downstream positive effects that all this could have. I mean, Charleston is a city that's growing, whether we like it or not, and this plan provides a framework for us to grow in a sustainable and resilient way, resiliency that we're going to need because whether we like it or not, whatever we do in the next 10 years, climate change is still going to have some pretty awful effects, and we got to be ready for that. All right, we can't just sit here and keep ignoring it, so we've got to do something about it. We need to make Charleston an example of what a city can do to combat climate change, not an example of what not to do. Thank you. I forfeit the rest of my time.
That's it?
Mr. Sass?
Yes, sir.
I need to get clear understanding. You mentioned that we can't ask any question or we can't make any point because I'm just conscious it's begging me to say something, sir.
We can certainly go down and talk to anybody out in the audience and ask
I
them a
mean, I'm
question.
talking as a representative of this council, sir, because I'm almost diametrically opposed in terms of some things that have just been said in reference to the library board, sir. And I'm asking permission to speak, sir.
All right, Mr. Darby.
I can't even understand my own writing because my memory isn't what it was in terms of, again, Mr. Pryor, the accident, sir. Dr. King is still right. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. And as a result of that statement, I cannot maintain my silence in terms of what I presently see. Today I speak not to procure the blessings of the Moms for Liberty. I'm not here tonight to procure the praises of the Republican Party because I'm a liberal and I'm proud to be a liberal. I used to be a radical, but a liberal nonetheless. But for the library system throughout this nation, down to Charleston County, to classify an 11-year-old to read the most gross, explicit verbiage of sex, the most illicit pictures which shows an 11-year-old, male and female, how to perform sex. Not only how to perform sex and its acts, but how to perform, I think some of us would consider the most unregular sex of the lowest degree, an 11-year-old. I am not only a father, not only am I an educator, but I am a denizen of a poverty-stricken community where sexual promiscuity within my demographics rampant. And to allow an 11-year-old to read this type of literature seeks to add to the promiscuity. Now, I may lose some friendships among the liberals, but when it comes to children, my first responsibility is to the child. And not to the library, not for moms, not for the Republican Party. It's what's best for the child. The problem of categorizing an 11-year-old as a young adult. When has a young adult been classified? I mean, an 11-year-old been classified as a young adult. A young adult is 18 years old, not 11. And I dare not show the pictures. But it says here, young adult, according to the library system, starts at 11. How many of you allow your 11-year-old child to do irregular sex acts? Have you been to school lately? An 11-year-old child doesn't even know how to hold up the hand and go to the restroom. And we as adults, now we have been very good to the library system. Everything the library wanted, we were there. But there comes a time we have to have these radical, candid conversations. So the problem with me is not just the illicit sex aspect of it. The problem is the categorization of an 11-year-old as a young adult. Now, has the government changed its formula? Are young adults, 11 years old, going into the military? Are they voting? Are they drinking? I mean, I'm just listening to common sense. Again, I'm not for moms. Do I agree with everything? Do I agree with some things? Yes. Republican Party? Yes. I agree with some things. Not all that conservatism. I don't, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to the children, I'm I'm not one to give unsolicited advice, but I would ask the library board to please take a sagacious and perspicacious analysis of this age classification. Because I don't think particularly it comes down to a man that he's going to allow his 11-year-old daughter to look at this kind of stuff. I just don't believe that. So, Mr. Sass, I apologize if I've broken protocol, but I just wouldn't rest well tonight, sir, without saying that. And again, this is not against anybody on an individual basis. Ms. Craig is doing a magnificent job. I have a great admiration and respect for her. I have a great admiration and respect for Dr. Tibble. I really do. But this is something that we just disagree on. Mr. Pryor, heck, you and I disagree. We will be best of friends.
Mr. Darby, I'm on board with you on this one.
So I just wish the library board please reconsider the reclassification aid. I just speak with compassion. That's just who Henry Darby is. So I'm not angry with anybody. Disappointed perhaps, yes, but not angry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. All right, we're going to begin our county council meeting. First thing is the Freedom of Information Act.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meeting was posted and agendas were distributed to news media and persons requesting notification.
Next thing, Reverend Middleton, would you lead us in the prayer? And Mr. Boykin, would you lead us in the pledge?
Let us pray. Eternal God, we bless your holy name and we thank you, God, for this day that you've given unto us. We bless you, God, for this opportunity to just breathe air, and we thank you for life, health, and a reasonable portion of strength. We thank you, God, for this county council, our administrator, our chairperson, and these county council colleagues that come week after week, either in committee meetings and or in our county council meeting, in order to justly do the business of the citizens of Charleston County. We ask you, God, to hold us by the hand, hold us, God, to the integrity for which we each, I believe, stand. And so we ask you right now to hold a mirror to our faces so that we might be able to take an introspective look to make certain that all of the things, all of the acts, all of the votes, the deeds that we do are honorable in your sight. And then, God, we ask your blessing upon our first responders, those who are out on the front lines, including our medical professionals, our nurses, our doctors, those who are in war-torn countries, our police officers, our firefighters, our EMTs. Oh, God, everybody, we ask that you touch, heal, deliver. We ask that you bring unity to our, not only our county, but to our world. We ask, God, even in the aftermath of gun violence in Georgia, we ask, God, that you continue to just put your hands on those who hurt and those who are suffering and those who are going through in this hour. And we do know that there are individuals who extend thoughts and prayers, but beyond thoughts and prayers, let us move to action and put conditions in place so that these type incidences will not continue to occur in our county. And then, God, we thank you for Charleston County. We are resilient. We are united. We're sustainable and strong. Keep us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Sass, before you start, sir, if I may, Mr. Moultrie, if you would just stand right there, sir. I just want county council to see the man who's responsible for Mr. Pryor, Mr. Knapp, and myself for single member district. Mr. Moultrie was the lead plaintiff.
Yes.
Which brought about single member districts, which went as far as the United States Supreme Court to make it happen. And even those counties fought tooth and nail against single member district. Dr. Wallace made a confession one night, said it's the best thing that ever happened to Charleston County. And this is the lead plaintiff, Mr. Lee Moultrie. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sass. I'm through, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. All right, minutes of August 13th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Recognitions and resolutions.
Move to approve 3A and B.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir. We need to vote on that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Is Ms. Turner here? You want to come forward? Direct Support Professionals Week.
Yes, sir. A resolution of Charleston County Council proclaiming the week of September 8th, 2024 as National Direct Support Professionals Week. Whereas the direct support professionals, including direct care workers, personal assistants, personal attendants, in-home support workers, and paraprofessionals, are key to providing publicly funded, long-term support and services for millions of individuals with disabilities. And whereas, thank you, direct support professionals arrive for work every day, ready to do everything they can to ensure the health and safety of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and autism. And whereas direct support professionals ensure that individuals with disabilities thrive through connections to their families, friends, and communities, thereby avoiding more costly institutional care. And whereas direct support professionals build close, respectful, and trusting relationships with individuals with disabilities and provide a broad range of individualized support to include helping people learn to make person-centered choices that lead to meaningful and productive lives. And whereas there is a documented, critical, and increasing shortage of direct support professionals throughout the United States, the majority are employed in home and community-based settings, and that trend will increase over the next decade. Now therefore be it resolved that Charleston County Council does hereby proclaim the week of September 8th, 2024 as National Direct Support Professionals Recognition Week in Charleston County, and recognizes the dedication and vital role of direct support professionals in enhancing the lives of individuals with disabilities of all ages, appreciates the contribution of direct support professionals in supporting individuals with disabilities and their families in the United States, and commends direct support professionals for being integral to the provision of long-term support and services for individuals with disabilities. Charleston County Council, Herbert R. Sass III, Chairman.
Thanks, Amy. We sure appreciate everything you and everybody does. We had a couple of new people get elected last week.
Definitely.
And,
I would like to introduce Tamisha Smalls. She works in our residential program, and this is in Brett Peters, and she works in our in our work training program. And if they could just tell you guys how long they've been with the Disabilities Board and what they enjoy about their job, I would really appreciate you giving them a minute to do that.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Tamisha Smalls. I've been with the Disabilities Board for 8 years. It is a job that I thoroughly enjoy. It is both challenging and difficult and rewarding at the same time. And I can see myself being there many more years.
We're glad about that.
My name is Bertha Dean Peters, better known as Bert. I've been there 36 years, and my mentor, my motto is, I'm there to serve and not to be served. And I love all the individuals, my consumers and my staff.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. If there's anybody out here that's touched or has a heart for or knows someone who has a heart for supporting people, we have jobs. So you can go to our website, Google Disabilities Board of Charleston County. You can see all the jobs that we have. These ladies and all the other men and women that we have are making a difference in our community for South Carolina's most vulnerable adults, and we'd love to have great new team members on. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Council. And those are cheese straws from our bakery. So people with disabilities made these, and this is one of our best sellers.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can we move A, B, and C up so these folks can go home? I know it's been a long day, and I think if we can do that without any objection from council, we can vote on that and then release them.
A, B, and C?
Yes, sir.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Commissions. Boards and commissions. I think the only one that's going to be, we have to take a vote on is C, right, Ms. Salisbury?
Yes, sir.
So I'll move for approval for A and B with the number of appointments. And it's been, okay.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we do 8C.
We have 2 nominees, and each council member get to pick one out of the 2. So,
It was 3 and
And those two are,
The other one's been on. Those two are Mr. Michael and Ms. Muley.
Ms. Muley, okay.
So each council member gets a vote for one. Yeah, is any, could we ask if anyone that was there, could they say something?
Absolutely. Please come forward and
I know you're large.
say hello.
1 minute.
Hi, Council. My name is Jason Michael, and I appreciate your consideration tonight. Just to tell you about me, I'm born and raised here in Charleston. I went to Howard undergrad, and I went to University of South Carolina Law School. I currently am in private practice, primarily criminal defense, but I also have a part-time job as an employee with the city of Charleston as their public defender. So serving is something I've always enjoyed. And a while ago, I got an opportunity to learn more about parks and recreation. And I can remember parks from when I was a kid, being at Palmetto Islands and how important the parks are. As we develop in Charleston, the parks are always going to be an important part of that. I'd ask for your consideration for my vision and my voice on that board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. So I will call the roll, and you could either vote for Muley or Michael. Mr. Boykin?
Muley.
Sorry, I have to prepare myself. Okay. Mr. Darby?
Michael.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Mr. Kabrowski? Mr. Middleton?
Michael.
Mr. Moody?
Muley.
Mr. Pryor?
Michael.
Mr. Werman?
Michael.
Mr. Sass?
Muley.
All right, so the nominee is Mr. Muley,
Thank you.
or
That
Miss Muley, I'm sorry.
takes care of number 8.
Yes, sir.
So we'll go back to 3, excuse me. Yeah, 4. We did 3A
Yes.
already. And B, those were resolutions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Number 4 is second reading ordinances, issuance of general obligation bonds for capital improvements, plan, equipment, and fire protection, second reading.
An ordinance to provide for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $91 million general obligation capital improvement bonds and $4,200,000 general obligation fire protection services bonds of Charleston County, South Carolina, to prescribe the purposes for which the proceeds shall be expended, to provide for the payment thereof, and other matters relating thereto. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Mr. Kabrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton? Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor? Mr. Werman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes second reading with 9 ayes.
Okay, 4B, financial incentives for Project MAC, ordinance second reading.
An ordinance authorizing, 1, the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and incentive agreement by and between Charleston County, South Carolina, and a company presently identified as Project MAC, asking for itself, 1 or more affiliates and/or other project sponsors collectively known as the company, pursuant to which the county shall covenant to accept certain negotiated fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to the establishment and/or expansion of certain facilities in the county. 2, the benefits of a multi-county industrial or business park to be made available to the company and the project. 3, certain special source revenue credits in connection with the project. 4, providing for the allocation of fees in lieu of taxes paid by the company under the agreement for the establishment of a multi-county industrial business park. And 5, other matters relating thereto. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Mr. Kabrowski?
Nay.
Mr. Middleton? Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Werman? Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Ordinance passes second reading with 8 ayes and 1 nay.
Okay, financial incentives for Project Coast, second reading.
An ordinance authorizing, 1, the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and incentive agreement by and between Charleston County, South Carolina, the county, and a company presently identified as Project Coast, acting for itself, 1 or more affiliates and/or other project sponsors, collectively the company, pursuant to which the county shall covenant to accept certain negotiated fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to the establishment and/or expansion of certain facilities in the county, the project. 2, the benefits of a multi-county industrial or business park to be made available to the company and the project. 3, certain special source revenue credits in connection with the project. 4, providing for the allocation of fees in lieu of taxes paid by the company under the agreement for establishment of a multi-county industrial business park. 5, allocation of fees in lieu of taxes paid by the company under the agreement for the establishment of a multi-county industrial business park. And 6, other matters relating thereto with the right to amend up to third reading. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Mr. Kabrowski? Mr. Middleton? Mr. Moody? Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Warman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Ordinance passes second reading with 8 ayes and 1 nay.
Okay, 4D, zoning, 04-24-100-153-927-935-943 Gadsdenville Road, ordinance second reading.
An ordinance rezoning the real properties located at 943, 935, and 927 Gadsdenville Road, parcel identification numbers 614-00000, 060, 061, and 062, from the Special Management S3 zoning district to the low-density residential R4 zoning district. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt?
Aye.
Mr. Kabrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Warman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes second reading with 9 ayes.
Great, thank you. 4E, repealing sections of Charleston County Code of Ordinances, second reading.
An ordinance repealing certain sections of the Charleston County Code of Ordinances to provide consistency with state law and to conform with current practice. Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Darby?
Aye.
Mrs. Honeycutt? Mr. Kabrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Warman?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
The ordinance passes second reading with 9 ayes.
Thank you. Number 5.
Move for approval
And adoption.
for 5A through G.
Through G.
Did we get, I just wanted to vote on the 5A. Does that mean?
Move for approval for, Mr. Pryor, might I recommend we do 5A and then take the other ones?
Fine, I'm good with that.
Okay, let's do 5A. Financial incentives for CK Crosspoint 11 LLC. Request to adopt. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And move for approval 5B through G.
Second.
Read them all at one time.
Yeah. Moved and seconded for 5B through 5G. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Ms.
Okay.
Salisbury?
Yes, sir. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Charleston County and CK Crosspoint 11 LLC, including any related or affiliated entities and any sponsor affiliates, collectively the company, whereby Charleston County will enter into a fee in lieu of taxes arrangement with the company, providing for payment by the company of certain fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for addition of the company property in a multi-county industrial business park, providing for the allocation of fees in lieu of taxes paid by Charleston County and Colleton County under the agreement for establishment of multi-county industrial business park and other matters relating thereto. And then an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 1912 Morgan Avenue, totaling approximately .25 acres, parcel identification number 47512000037 to Delancey Street, South Carolina. And then an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 1980 Dogwood Road, totaling approximately .2 acres, parcel identification number 35515000037 to Charleston Habitat for Humanity. And then an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 9789 Petewood Drive, totaling approximately .22 acres, parcel identification number 38801000057 to J&W Construction and Design LLC. And then an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 6306 Brant Street, totaling approximately .29 acres, parcel identification number 475-1200060 to Narrowgate. And then an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 7646 Allwood Avenue, totaling approximately .23 acres, parcel identification number 405-0800105 to Charleston Revival. And finally, an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 2225 Doris Drive, approximately .27 acres, parcel identification number 355110020 to WEH Incorporated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Next item is number 6.
Mr. Chair.
Consent agenda. Yes, sir.
Move to appoint, accept, award, or approve as appropriate 6A through 6G.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Boykin, seconded by Mr. Pryor. Any questions, or any one of these individually needs to be discussed? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Move for approval 7A, B.
Second.
Mr. Pryor and Reverend Middleton, so 7A through E, is that what you?
Say A through B. B.
A through B, okay. A and B, okay.
I just like to discuss
Um, You want to discuss A?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's discuss A and then we'll vote.
All right.
Go ahead, Mr. Kowalski.
I'll be succinct. I just want I'll vote for it tonight, but I want to reconfirm why I brought it up at the Finance Committee. You know, this is basically a plan about reducing greenhouse gases, and we need to address that. But we also have to address the more immediate impact of sea level rise and more frequent storms on houses, businesses, and infrastructure. And I think that people need to know that we're spending immediate money on immediate needs. The crisis that I see us facing, and I represent a coastal district, is rising sea levels. And I think that that is our what we need to focus on. There's stuff in the plan that does go into it to some extent, but my concern is that all the things we have done that I've seen for unbridled growth and more roads and more development as a whole, and build here and build there and build everything out, and all the impervious services will outweigh the benefits. As long as we continue along that path, we outweigh any benefits that we do by this. It's not to say that we shouldn't do what we can, but I wanted to raise the point that we need to do more about doing more of what the city of Charleston is doing with their water plan. That's why I raised it, and I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of 7A?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Mr. Kowalski, did you vote?
I voted.
Okay. All right. 7B.
Move to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, move to approve. Okay. Moved and seconded for 7B. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. 7C.
Approve. For
Second.
committee recommendation, or for staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Honeycutt, seconded by Mr. Boykin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. 7D.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Chairman. No, go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, I think we've got something on the table. I wanted to have a little discussion on this one.
Okay.
I guess I just wanted to know, can I get a level set on this? And I maybe have missed something, but like, I just sort of learned of this on Monday. So, I mean, am I correct in understanding that this, sort of bike ped bridge was taken out recently? Did that happen way before now? Where are we with this? I kind of need a little bit of background on this, I think, from whomever.
Mr. Adams?
Sure. So the nature of the design-build process is that design elements can change throughout the process based on information that we learned throughout the process. So one of the things that we learned along the way was that DOT declined to accept the maintenance and ownership of that standalone pedestrian bridge. So that bridge would be the responsibility of the county if the DOT would not maintain it. So that was problematic to the county in that we do not maintain anything of that nature. The bridges that we maintain are only 12. They're very small, low-level bridges. So really outside of our area of expertise and ability to own and maintain that bridge. So that was considered, or that was part of this design-build process that we went forward, and then it was excluded from the design-build contractor's final and best offer as part of the contract submission through the normal process.
Okay, I think you might have answered my second question, which is there a mechanism to, I mean, I guess, and it's going to have to affect my vote on this, I mean, is there a way that it could be sort of bootstrapped onto the contract that y'all have basically negotiated to you know, make that a part of this, or at least explore that possibility? I know that a lot of ideas have just been sort of talked about, but I mean, it kind of sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we approve this contract, it just can't be a part of it because it wasn't part of the bid.
So it would not be part of the bid. However, change orders could be a possibility. However, we're under a tight timeline with the SIB agreement that we have for $40 million. The project has to be completed by December 31st of 2028. It's a 4-year duration on the construction contract, so it doesn't leave much wiggle room in our schedule. So if things were to change or new facts change revolving around that bridge, we would have to act very quickly on it to be able to fit that within the scheduling requirements of the agreement that we have in place.
That's 2028.
December 31st of 2028 is the deadline per the SIB agreement.
Mr. Chair, I did, and of course I don't have authority or confidence, you know, from the mayor of Charleston, but I did speak with a few city council members, and it was expressed to me that the city of Charleston may have some appetite for maintaining the bridge, if then, you know, deeded to them, if it remained included in this project. This portion of the project, you know, is in my district, and I've had numerous calls relative to this. And certainly, if the city of Charleston would be willing, I think it's a conversation worth having.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Werman, did you have anything else further?
What is the sort of, how is bike ped incorporated into the design that has been contemplated by the contract, I guess?
So it is a design build, so the design will continue to evolve throughout the process. We're certainly committed to looking at other options, such as retrofitting the existing Limehouse Bridge. Initial discussions with the DOT, they resisted some options that were proposed, but it's certainly something we can continue to work with them on accommodating bike and pedestrian on that existing Limehouse Bridge. So we would obviously work on that. Certainly committed to making the connection to the county park from the Greenway over to Bees Ferry. Still part of the project, committed to that as well. So looking at options, working with DOT to see what we could possibly facilitate on the existing Limehouse Bridge is certainly something we're committed to doing as part of the process.
Mr. Boykin?
Just a couple other points. Mr. Adams, is it true that whatever funding, whether it's $40,000, $50,000 per year, every 2 years, whatever the case may be, those funds, if we were to have to assume maintenance of that bridge, they'd come out of our general operating budget, and we cannot use transportation sales tax funds for those?
That is correct. The state will not allow transportation sales tax funds for maintenance. So any costs for inspection or maintenance of that bridge would have to be come from the county's general fund.
And secondly, after its useful life of 60, 80 years, whatever that might be, would the county be bound to rebuild or reconstruct that bridge?
Yeah, the county would be the owner of the bridge and responsible for keeping it open and operating, all liability associated with that bridge.
So to that point, as to the city, I'd love for them to own that bridge. You know, we build it and they welcome to it. I mean, I don't want us to wind up in a situation where we set ourselves up, or a future council, for a financial situation. So If the city, I'm all in for it. We build it, they can have it. I mean, that's my attitude about it, and they can maintain it. And I want the bridge completed. I just don't want this council and this county to be in a situation of taking on an asset that we have no business trying to maintain and no experience, and everything's going to have to be farmed out. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't it be wise for us to just move forward as it is? And if the city wants to negotiate with the county, adding that bike lane and take responsibility after this bridge after it's built, that's up to them. But, I'm not willing to vote to say, to put the county on the hook and future people for the next 60 years for this kind of a money. Right. It doesn't make sense. And, if the city is willing to do it, like Reverend Milton said, they might entertain it, you can always amend the contract to say the city is going to be responsible for maintaining the bridge, even though we would pay for it. At $40,000 a year for 60 years, you figure it up and you see how much, that's almost what, $2.4 million? A lot
of money.
And that 40,000 will have to come out the county's general operating fund. While I support what Ms. Katie and Ms. Zimmerman was doing, but I'm just not willing, and it's not fiscally responsible for us to go ahead and put this in there not knowing where the money's going to come from. So I think the biggest, the easiest way to do it is pass it as is, and then Eric and those and our staff can meet with the city, and if they want it, they can have it after it's completed, and we out of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, that you know the expense of this thing that's going up almost an extra $104 million.
Right.
It started at around about $2, and the longer we delay this, the more the construction cost is going to go up. Ma'am, you can't speak to us from back there, please. So the project is going to go up. Well, I'll answer your question. They said the same thing about 526. How can it go up so fast? But look where it went up from $250 million to now almost $2.5 billion. So, I'm just, as a representative of this council, I'm just not willing to put future council or my constituents in that kind of a situation. And every time these projects are held up, the price goes up. And I don't think the builder is going to say, well, okay, I'll give it to you for this in 2 more years, because the price of material is going to go up.
Right.
Chair, one last thing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Real
Mr.
briefly.
Boykin.
To hold this project would be to put an unfair burden on all the folks on the Sea Islands.
Absolutely.
And West Ashley and James Island. I mean, this has been long needed. I want the bike ped path done, but we can't hold up the whole project because there's a disagreement between us and DOT over the bridge, the pedestrian bridge.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So I've got Werman, Darby, Kabrowski, nay?
Nay.
You're nay? You're aye, okay.
And Mr. Werman is a nay.
Right, Kabrowski and Darby are
Okay.
nays.
So 6-3.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see.
Move for approval.
7E. 7E, yes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded for 7E. Any discussion?
Chair, I did meet with, I always try to make certain that, on Thursday I voted nay to this, which I wish to change to aye on Thursday in committee meeting, because I did ask for opportunity to meet with staff, which I did, and they did an excellent job, along with the consultant, explaining, because I, was gone and didn't have the opportunity in the run-up, to Thursday's meeting to get more information and do my own due diligence. I've done that. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for setting that up in short order. And so I'm fully satisfied with moving forward on my end on this.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, that ends our items on the agenda. Council comments, Mr. Werman?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pryor?
Yeah, just a little. I'm going to echo what Mr. Darby said during the public hearings, and I wish we can get this worked out, because I don't want this council, I don't want these citizens, I don't want the kids to get caught between, two power struggles, because that's basically what it's looking like. You know, I too have grandchildren, and they're not allowed to even think about looking, saying things like this. You know, I got a, let's see, I got so many, I got 8, so I got to remember the age. A 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. Whatever they needed to know about their physical, their mother or their grandmother taught that to them. They didn't learn it from a book. Now, if they wanted to read the book and check it out, it was checked out by an adult. And so that's always been my preference, to each its own. And I'm not with Moms for Liberty for banning any books. I'm not with these people because the next thing you know, they're going to ban the Bible or they're going to ban this book, Black History book. I'm not for that. But common sense, Mr. Darby is right, dictates. No man or no male would want his daughter or his son to be subject to something like this. And secondly, if we can teach these 11-year-olds, what about gun safety? Did anybody thought about doing that with the library? Putting some books out for gun safety, teaching them how to use a weapon, how to prepare for a weapon. I mean, you know, these are kind of things that save lives. And Mr. Darby is right. Poverty breeds poverty. And if an 11-year-old go out there and be promiscuous, it's going to continue the cycle. And so we are trying to break the cycle. No ill will against the library or Ms. Angela Craig, because she's doing a wonderful job, but we just agree to disagree on this one because from my perspective, when I was growing up, you know, I couldn't even get into a movie at the age of 15 without an adult buying a ticket and say it's okay. And that was just a regular R-rated movie, not an X-rated movie. And so that's why this is so near and dear to us. I wish we could work out something, but those folks need to go through the right procedure if they want these things removed. And I'm not going to tell them to come to county council because we're not the library board. They need to go through the right procedure. And if the library board agrees with them, fine. If they don't, that's their fight. It's not county council's fight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Boykin?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Ms. Honeycutt?
I did want to briefly address that issue from a slightly different angle. I had the opportunity to take Darkness to Light training this week because I serve in a volunteer position that requires that type of oversight of young children. And the stuff that we learned in that class and the way children are groomed using materials is very intentional. And so I do think we need to be very conscientious. I think the library has a system in place that folks do need to follow if they have a concern. But I would encourage everybody, if you haven't, even if you aren't in a position to supervise children, to take that training. It's just a few hours. Darkness to Light is an organization that was started here in Charleston or in South Carolina. They have great resource and materials. So I think we have a duty to protect our future. And not just our own children, but our entire community. So to Mr. Darby and Mr. Pryor, thank you for continuing to hold up that banner and all that you've done. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Henry.
Thank you. Reverend Middleton?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Not for a long soliloquy, but wanted to at least thank council tonight. 4 years ago, nearly 4 years ago, I am an environmental steward, and I believe that God has called all of us in some capacity to protect our environment. And unlikely sources, sometimes you find yourselves on the side of certain issues, and I was singularly one at the time pushing for a climate action resolution or a climate resolution, for climate here on council. And that seemed to be very unpopular during that time. And certainly we worked, we partnered, we parsed and had long conversations. And now 4 years unanimously, I believe tonight it was 9-0. We passed a climate action plan with 5 big moves and all of those strategies that positions us, does not mandate anything, but positions us to be in the driver's seat in convening some of those conversations. So I would just like to say thank you. Certainly, as we look at, internally our capacity among those offices and those officers, who run those departments, recognizing that the majority of those things must come back to council, especially those big moves. They're not going to move without us moving them, as well as setting some of the priorities. And so, as it relates to flooding or sea level rises and that sort of thing, I think council can then now, with a plan, begin to direct, as we have directed on so many other ordinances, regulations and other things throughout our county government. So I'm just excited for unity and for a unanimous vote tonight. Thank you. I know we don't agree. I'm very conservative, and I don't say that as a juxtaposition to anybody else. It's just me personally, I am conservative. Black preachers in general are very conservative. I mean, just do the homework on it. It's just what it is. And so I don't care if we wear a D, a R, or a I, or nothing. Those things don't define us. And so thank you all for not looking at partisan politics, but looking at our county as a whole, our environment, and just the opportunity that we have been given to at least have a plan that enables us to do something responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mr. Sass. A couple of things bounced around a little bit, and congratulations, Reverend Middleton. You were an original champion of that, and it's well done. I wanted to thank Ms. Craig. Mr. Kabrowski and I were at the Charleston County Main Library last night for the Americans and the Holocaust exhibit that's here for a month. I would encourage folks to go see that. I see personally some troubling aspects of the passiveness, the way Americans treated Jews back in that time. And sometimes history repeats itself, and that's a bad situation. So I would encourage you to go see that exhibit. So, Mr. Darby, I've sat next to you for a long time, and I learned when you start writing that something's about to happen. So I give you this one before I yell at the chairman next time to keep order.
Thank you, sir.
You get one for the year. That's it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, sir.
And finally, I wanted to just life lesson. I guess when sometimes people are making a fool of themselves, sometimes just get away and let them keep making the fool of themselves. But Mr. Tootin, I've grown concerned about some of the things I heard about yesterday. Meetings and things where council members are approached and people are getting in their personal space. That's troubling. So if we need to have sheriff's deputies at these meetings until people can learn how to behave, I think we need to consider doing that. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Is it possible, somebody please just explain to me, because I don't know what anybody's talking about.
I'll tell you, we'll talk about that.
Thank you so much. Did I miss a meeting?
Mr. Darby?
Well,
Was it a public meeting?
No. First of all, I would ask Reverend Middleton to please specify what type of conservative he is. Because in my time, conservatives didn't allow us to vote, sir, and they didn't allow us to go to integrated school. That's what conservative does. That's their history, sir, of the conservative group within that party. So I wish that you would specify, sir. And really, I don't want anybody to align me with a Tim Scott or any other black conservative who somehow have forgotten where they've come from in terms of voting and the racial problems here in America. However, I would like to say that I am somewhat passionate and compassionate when it comes down to children. Now, I would like to say that when it comes down to books, I'm not in favor of banning books. Let me say that. However, we must realize that all bans are not bad. We ban 15-year-olds from driving. We ban husbands from hitting their wives. This country banned slavery. This country banned child labor. This country banned 17 years old and below from voting. I think in 2021, this country finally banned lynching. So if you want to say, I want to ban an 11-year-old from reading certain subjects, if you want to say that I want to ban an 11-year-old to be classified as a young adult, yes, I'm for that ban. Because there should be no materiality from my culture where a book exposes an 11-year-old how to do certain things with their bodies. Illustrative pictures of how to do that. I've never been vindictive. I've never been somewhat insidious or doing things surreptitiously when it comes down to do the right thing. But I'm going to ask Ms. Craig, I'm going to ask the library board to seriously consider the age classification for these books. Not the books, but the age. And it's not a threat, not at all. But I think the effort needs to be there, because if the effort's not there, then personally, as an educator, I'm putting child first, I'm going to do my best to get 4 other votes to make a change for the entire library system here in Charleston County. And I may need to speak to you about that subject matter, ma'am. But I do have faith in Ms. Craig. I have faith in the library system that they will do their best in terms of the age classification, because I still can't wrap it around my head how an 11-year-old is considered a young adult. That just doesn't register with me. There's a few years ago, an 11-year-old girl got, okay, I'm through, I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Kabrowski.
I first want to thank, I don't see anybody still here, but the extraordinary level of public concern and participation for those who came to live in Deweese Island, because I've been there. It is a place of magic, and it's like Bull Island, but to come here tonight to speaks volumes about the passion, whatever side you're on, that people feel. You have to take a boat to get there and go back. They'll get back there very late at night, so it's not like this driving here. That shows a tremendous amount of concern about where they live, and that we've heard from both sides, but didn't get a chance to say anything to the public hearing. But I wanted to thank them and personally acknowledge what an effort that made. And second, I want to express my admiration for Mr. Darby. You know, I was on this, we're in total agreement. I admire his courage and moral passion in this, and I don't think anybody has a right to sexualize young children. Whatever the parents, if a parent wants to sexualize their children, they don't have a right to use the public library to do that. And we're not banning the book, and I would support the effort to, I would second certainly what he suggested to do. I'd be, if I could second that. It's not banning books, it's putting books that, if we were to, the materials that we were presented, if we were to send those to somebody in the regular mail or by email, we'd be arrested. And I think that I've had 2 daughters, I've had 6 grandchildren from the age of 10 to 2. And I think in the public library, if that's in your face, it is wrong for young adults to have sexually explicit material available to them that they can access. If a parent wants to get that themselves, they can get that in the adult section. So I encourage that, and I'll be there with you on that. And I thank you and admire you for that. And the third thing I want to say, I've been here 2 years. I wasn't here when you started it, but thank Reverend Middleton for starting the process. And I heard what you said about prioritizing things, and I believe we've laid the groundwork now. What I, for one, again, being in a coastal district, there's elements in there that we can prioritize, because I do think our most immediate concern is coastal flooding, which is real and palpable, and I think that we have ways to do that. And again, I express my concern that the policies I've seen, from my perspective, in my district and others, and other things that we have approved for unbridled growth and giving the county over to developers and builders, offsets the advantages that we are that we voted on tonight, and that it require hypervigilance to address the flooding that we all face, and I'll join you in that in any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tootin?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Ms. Ham? Thank you all. I want to thank everybody. You know, we all are up here and we did a lot to get here, and we've done a lot while we're here. And the main thing is that we really care about our community. And you can see that tonight. You can see that in every council meeting we have, how much your council members care about your community. We really do, and I appreciate everything that's been said tonight. I really do. I want to also thank council for moving on segment A. We need to get this done, and I think that there may be a solution further on down the line. I'm still holding out that the state will somehow let us mark it up and put it on the bridge. That would be easier than having to do all the other things, but that would be my own personal preference. But I'm holding out for that. But I'd love to see that happen because we do want to keep that access for the community. I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I thank everybody and staff and everybody for all the great job you all have done. Thank you all very much. We're adjourned.
I gotta go. I gotta get me something to eat.